Thank you, comrade Nick, comrades, brothers and sisters. It's a pleasure being here today. Ironically, when our council executives met today, not knowing that this meeting was taking place prior to it was going to meet, because our council executives today took a decision not only to back all of the candidates in the Greater London Assembly elections, but to allow all of our branches and regional councils to use their political funds to support all TUSC candidates throughout the length of the He's not against those, what I call, good friends still in the Labour Party. We've still got some good comrades in the Labour Party, and a particular group of MPs, John McDonnell and people like that. We still believe that they're people that we work with and we support and roll their sleeves up on a daily basis. When the Shrewsbury 3 court case comes up on April the 3rd in the High Court to release the papers on the abysmal blacklisting of what took place at those pickets in the Shrewsbury 3, it will be John McDonnell and other people in our group that will be supporting them on the steps and inside the courthouse that takes place. But brothers and sisters, I've got to say, we've got to go beyond some of those MPs that turn around and say, well, you know, I'm a good MP. And yes, Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell and others are good MPs. But they're not standing as Jeremy Corbyn MP or John McDonnell MP, they're standing on the manifesto of the Labour Party. And I've got to tell you, if anyone's got any doubts about London Labour, which some people have told me is different to National Labour, I realise that's been just sent to me this week from a person I never knew of, but she represents my area. Her name is Jeanette Arnold, and she's the AM, also an OBE, for the member of North East London, Hackney, Islington and Waltham Forest. And she's also chair of the London Assembly. And she writes to me in a very nice way, "Dear Bob," I thought she was after money first of all when I said "Dear Bob," normally it's Mr Crow. When it comes to election time, they normally remember what your first name is. It says, "Dear Bob, please find a motion by the Assembly at its preliminary meeting on the 7th of March. Now, I thought this was just her writing on behalf of Boris Johnson. Now I believe it wasn't just her that wrote the letter on behalf of herself, or the Labour group, but the entire Assembly. Both the Liberals, Greens, Independents, and of course the Tories adopted this resolution. Without even consulting us, this is what this resolution says. This Assembly believes that given the current pay level of London Tube drivers, there can be no justification for any trade union-led strike action on pay for the next 4 years of the mayoral term. This does, however, require mutual respect. The Assembly notes that we regret the failure of the current mayor to negotiate the tube unions, which has led to an increase in the number of strikes. Between 2008, there has been 16. Since 2009, there's been 23. This Assembly notes that the Mayor's failure to reach his no-strike deal with the tube unions has his failure to meet with them to discuss industrial relations. This Assembly urges the Mayor and the unions to commit their face-to-face dialogue to resolve issues by direct negotiation rather than confrontation and media and bluster." Now, I've got to say to yourself, I don't know what a letter means, because even if we agree it, I mean, what she's arguing actually, that we have a no-strike deal as well. So, never mind about a company who comes in and keeps rates of pay low for cleaners on £6.50 an hour. Never mind about privatising some of our jobs, getting rid of the jobs on the stations. All our fault is that we dare take industrial action. And I've got to say that's been supported now by all of the groups within the Greater London Assembly. Now, brothers and sisters, as Nick quite rightly said today, if anyone's seen the budget, it was a particularly good budget for the rich. And the difference is that when he started reading out today, this is the middle of austerity, by the way, and I thought with austerity, he keeps on telling all these words he keeps on using, doesn't he? He uses these words, you ever notice when there's a crisis on, they bring all these flash words up, derivatives, quantitative easing. Now, I don't know what they mean. You know, when workers go home at night, like myself and others here, when you're sitting there eating your pie and chips at night, I'm sure the phrase that you use in your household is, "Hello, sweetheart, how's your derivatives tonight?" Before you go to bed, how about coming upstairs from some quantitative easing? I mean, the reality is they use these words to confuse people. All quantitative easing at the end of the day is glorified IOUs. That's what it really means. But at a time when they're supposed to be trying to get hold of money for the amount of borrowing that they've done, today he cut 5% straight away for the rich on those 150,000 people, 1% of society, cut their tax from next year by 5%. Just like that. For those on paying corporate tax, the bosses, is going to reduce corporate tax by 8% within 3 years, cutting it automatically straight away, just like that. But if you're a pensioner, you've been hammered. If you're a working person, but what they're going to do is create a divide now, because this is more devious than what people think about freezing 16 to 18-year-olds minimum pay. Because the idea now is that the people on minimum pay will undercut low-paid workers, and he's increased that by a meagre 11 pence. But 16 to 18-year-olds is even a bigger chunk of unemployment than it is between 16 and 24. He's frozen that on just over £3.80. So what he's going to try and do is those on 16 to 18-year-olds is to use them to undermine those people on the minimum rate, and those people on the minimum rate to undermine those people on lower rates of pay, and so on and so on. Now what I call that is class politics. The difference is this: I admire what Osborne done today for that small percentage in society. The reality is, when Miliband stood up and questioned this and questioned that, what would Ed Miliband and Ed Balls do under the same circumstances? Exactly the same, but over a longer period of time. And the reality is this, pretty simple, brothers and sisters, is that political parties represent classes of people. That's what it boils down to. And we've got a situation at the moment in Britain where the three main political parties, even though there might be small detail which is different, all support privatisation, all support keeping the anti-trade union laws, and all support illegal wars throughout the length and breadth of the world. That's the real reality. And there is an underrepresentation of working people, unemployed people who want to have work, and pensioners. And it's about time people started recognising the fact in the trade union movement that we've got to start making those moves. And I'll tell you, and this wasn't done just by some small little political group in our executive committee. We wrote to every single branch in London and asked them, was there any detrimental reasons why our union should not support TUSC in the Greater London Assembly? Every single branch. And do you know what? There wasn't one single branch in the Greater London Assembly area that has wrote back and said that we shouldn't support it. And in fact, one regional council said we should get on and start developing it even further. So that foretells you, brothers and sisters, for all this lark about some of these trade unions, which I can't for the life of me, still want to carry on supporting them. I mean, how can you go and tell workers in the public sector that you're going to have a pay freeze for the next couple of years, there's going to be regional pay bargaining, you're going to have cuts to your pensions, and Miliband turns around and says, well, what we really want is responsible capitalism. Well, what is responsible capitalism? Because capitalism is built on the basis of inequality anyway. You can't have capitalism without inequality, because you have to have a poor labour that's prepared to undermine those people that are in employment, and at the same token goes, capitalism works on the basis of inequality for a small pool of people to be exploited by the majority of people who pay that small percentage of people in society to have the lifestyles that they have and they dream of. So therefore, brothers and sisters, our position is pretty clear. We are fully support of TUSC candidates. People can go out here tonight and say it's not just some little branch just devoting money, but our national union of RMT has decided that we're supporting TUSC. And what a state to get into, that over 107 years ago, when people of this union, the Amalgamated Society of Railway Servants, walked into Farringdon Hall and moved the resolution to say that we want a party of labour and to move away from liberalism, we're now in a situation where we're saying we want to get rid of labour and to have a party of socialists and trade unions who can combine together. And I've got to tell you, brothers and sisters, I'm going to finish with this. I'm proud that I'm here tonight, and I'm proud I'm amongst people. And people will say that you ain't got no chance of winning. Well, I'll tell you what, you have got a chance of winning. In my view, there's people out there that have lost faith in those main political parties. And when this budget is unravelled, and when you see what Labour is going to fail to do to deliver on behalf of working people, I think myself that we've got a golden opportunity to deliver a victory in London and make a big impact in there. Brothers and sisters, I pledge that I stand by, like we did previous for TUSC in the previous general election. I stood as #1 candidate, was proud to support No to EU, Yes to Democracy. You know, when we stood to No to EU, Yes to Democracy, We was told that we was little Englanders. Find me someone now that put their hand up and says they want to go into the European Union. You'd be a very proud person. So I've been a minority all my life, only to find out that later on in my life that the minority position becomes the majority position. And tonight we may be in a minority, but we can end up in a majority if we go out there and deliver a big yes vote and a vote for TUSC on May the 3rd. And I'll ask you to vote.